Here to preview the likely Biden talking points on Tuesday is Democratic strategist Jeff Guillot, founding partner at Millennial Strategies and an expert on millennial retention and economic development. So, Jeff, this is an event that a lot of people have been looking for to really contrast these two different candidates. So when it comes to Joe Biden and his pitch to the American electorate on Tuesday at the debate, what do you think he's going to be focusing on?
Well, I think he has to focus on the stark differences in not just public policy between these two actors, but also the real difference between the level of empathy and compassion that these guys are going to bring to the job. Right. I mean, what you're seeing right now is Donald Trump has created a dark and dystopian American moment that is only exacerbated by the abomination he's about to try to pull off with the vacant Supreme Court seat. And Biden needs to show that he is where folks didn't have to go to bed at night worrying about the very fiber of democracy being ripped apart. I think if he can do that, Biden will come out of these debates relatively unscathed.
I'm going to disagree with you a little bit on that because, for example, in 2016, President Trump was the very same person that he is right now. I mean, he's a guy with brash language and things of that nature. And I think when you look at Hillary Clinton, I mean, she was for sure going for the more polished type of approach, especially during the debates. But at the end of the day, the American people decided that they didn't want a continuation of whatever they thought maybe were neoliberal policies coming out of the Obama administration. A lot of people saying that it was a referendum in some ways. And I think what the Trump campaign is going to look to do in regard to that issue is say, I may not be the one who's necessarily as friendly with my language, but Joe Biden, for example, was late to condemn actual violence on the streets, which we know will be a topic that Chris Wallace will be bringing up on Tuesday. So what do you think the Biden response is to that right now for an issue that that the Trump campaign is going to bring up?
I think you're exactly right. I mean, the American electorate, well, not the popular vote, but the Electoral College chose Donald Trump despite of a lot of this brashness. And I think the optimal difference here is that the American people have seen what 4 years of Donald Trump looks like. Donald Trump in 2016 was a curiosity to a lot of voters. Like, let's try the outsider approach because we don't like the insider approach that Hillary Clinton represents. Now the electorate has seen what 4 years of Trump looks like, and therefore there's going to be a real recalcitrance that's going to be on display.
And I think that's a good point, too, because I think that the American people do have a better idea of what President Trump is going to bring to the table, whereas Joe Biden, for example, it seems that he wants to run on maybe the Obama legacy a little bit and capitalize off of his popularity. And I think that's really what they're going for, too, because Obama is still a very major figure within the Democratic Party. So I think that the two sides are going to try to maybe polarize their bases a little bit and try to go for the turnout rather than the independent voter a little bit. But I mentioned Chris Wallace before. He's going to be moderating this debate. President Trump has had several interviews with Chris Wallace. Joe Biden has not had any this election cycle. Do you think that's going to come as a disadvantage for Biden going into Tuesday night?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think Chris Wallace and Fox News in general are starting to see this election for what it is, right? Like you saw probably the latest round of Fox News polling that came out today and yesterday, showing that Biden is pulling 5 points ahead in Ohio, of all places, a place that Democrats had left for dead in the 2016 election. And so I think that the question set that Chris Wallace has picked, I think, is apropos to this moment in time. And the thing with this set of debates is that they only represent an advantage for Trump if Biden can stumble. If Biden can stay stable and stick to his message, I don't think there are that many undecided voters left in America that are going to be moved by these debates. And I think that's a unique thing to this particular moment in time. I don't know about you, but I don't really know much. I don't really know that many people who haven't made up their mind as to who they're supporting in this election. I don't know if there is that suburban, swing voter sitting out in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, who's saying, you know what, let me wait until the debate to make my decision. I just don't know if that's the case, but I think like a lack of competence displayed by either one of these men could be the only thing that changes it. If you see the same dog and pony show from both candidates that we've been seeing on the campaign trail for the last 6 months, I think this thing is going to be a wash.
No, and back in 2016, for example, I remember there was that one individual, I can't remember his name, I think it was something Bone, Ken Bone maybe, and he was one of the undecided voters at the debate, and people were saying the very same thing. How could you be an undecided voter at this moment when the contrast could not seem that much more clear? But I think you also bring up a point about Joe Biden and what his performance at this upcoming debate, because I will admit, Joe Biden has surprised me every way throughout this election. I didn't think that he would fare well in the primary. He ended up winning, and it wasn't even close. I thought that maybe he'd struggle in a one-on-one debate with Senator Bernie Sanders. he seemed to hold his own throughout the entire time. So I think that when it comes to this upcoming debate, though, President Trump, for example, is not your typical debater. I think that he might be thrown off guard a little bit, and I'm going to be looking to see if Chris Wallace can hone this all in together. But are you confident in Joe Biden's abilities to hold his own on Tuesday?
Listen, Joe Biden is not amateur hour. This is a guy who was vice president of the United States and a U.S. senator for a very long time before this. He's seen big moments before. I do think you're right, and you raise a good point that if I'm preparing Donald Trump, I want to create this kind of, well, next year you'll be in jail kind of moment in these debates. Like you got to throw something that Joe's people haven't thought of yet. Something so outrageous that you're going to make him stumble. That's really the only way that this can play into Trump's hands. He has to go for the shock factor, because if we just hear the same, Donald Trump Temple of Doom dog and pony show, like steady, empathetic, blue-collar Scranton Joe, this isn't going to do anything to change voters' minds. And I know that I doubt Biden is going to have some Trojan horse to try to throw Trump off his tracks. He just needs to be presentable, and he'll win this thing and win the election. I'd be scared of the out of left field haymaker from Trump that is going to try to get him off his talking points.
And especially with a viewership like these debates bring in, oftentimes it is about that big moment and the moment that people will talk about the next day. That's why oftentimes we see the candidates go for the viral clip sometimes more than the persuasive argument. I think you're exactly right to say that, and I think that's what we're going to be seeing on Tuesday night as well.
I'm going to get your guns and all the what Liz Warren did to Bloomberg and stuff. 100%.
Exactly.
That's the way these things have evolved.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. But Jeff Guillot, I really appreciate you coming on the program tonight and helping us preview this major event. Thank you for joining us.